I love that plant. That's my whole life.
What is the problem?
The shudder. The damn shudder, the vibration that I felt during the turbine trip that bothered me. And sure didn't bother anybody else. And then when I'm checking it, I find that some idiot phonied the welding x-rays. I just cannot believe a man would deliberately falsify the records of a nuclear reactor. My God.
The China Syndrome is a 1979 drama thriller film directed by James Bridges that would find box office success following a real-life nuclear accident. In Los Angeles, California, television news reporter Kimberly Wells, played by Jane Fonda, heads off on an assignment with her cameraman Richard Adams, played by Michael Douglas, and soundman Hector Salas, played by Daniel Valdez. They all head to the fictional Ventana nuclear power plant outside of Los Angeles. While there to do a story on nuclear power and energy, they are given a tour of the location by the plant's public relations frontman Bill Gibson, played by James Hampton.
This is a pellet of simulated uranium, the exact size that's used in the fuel rods. This tiny pellet contains more energy than 6 carloads of coal.
Oh, yeah.
We have 20 million of those pellets inside the reactor vessel. That's here. We call it the core. Around the core, of course, is water. Water is used as a coolant. Now, inside the fuel assembly is another set of rods called the control rods. These rods actually control the nuclear reaction. What happens is this. When the core is put online, that is, when it's activated, the control rods are lifted out. With them gone, the nuclear fuel sets up a chain reaction that produces a tremendous amount of heat that boils the water, that turns to steam, that turns the turbine, that turns the generator, that produces electricity. That's it.
During their tour, they witness the nuclear power plant go through a turbine trip, which causes a scram or a nuclear shutdown.
What was that?
Felt like an earthquake.
What the hell's...
Overlooking the main control room, the group sees shift supervisor Jack Goodell, played by Jack Lemmon, and crew chief Ted Spindler, played by Wilford Brimley, frantically trying to contain the situation.
Goodell in.
Jack? Bill Gibson in the distress gallery.
Yep.
We got some people here from Channel 3. They're shooting a TV news special at the plant. Listen, what the hell's going on down there?
It's just a routine turbine trip, Bill. Okay? Just take it easy. There's nothing to worry about.
High water level in the reactor.
We're still on main auxiliary power.
Okay, relax. Everybody relax. Got high water in the core and I'm going to dump it.
There's nothing to worry about. It's just a routine turbine trip.
Unbeknownst to Gibson, Richard has begun filming the event.
There's obviously a lot of activity, but Goodell says it's routine. He's a good man, Goodell. He was a commander of a submarine in the nuclear navy. We have these turbine trips a couple of times a year.
What's a turbine trip?
Well, that means the turbine is no longer turning.
Goodell feels vibrations and sees that chart recorders indicate that the water level inside the nuclear reactor core has risen to abnormally high levels. The crew quickly begins opening relief valves in an effort to prevent too much water from damaging the plant. After doing this, the readings still show high water in the core, while other readings show low water in the core.
Hey, Jack.
What?
Look at this water level indicator. Water level's low.
This says it's high.
That's it.
Goodell instantly realizes that something is wrong.
Jesus Christ. These water binding, can we see water? God damn it!
Realizing that the water in the core is now dangerously low, the staff scrambles, as if the water continues dropping, there will be a massive, disastrous nuclear meltdown.
Get everybody into safety areas and make sure that they stay there.
All personnel proceed directly to safety areas. Caution. Code 6. This is not a drill. This is not a drill.
We stay right here.
All personnel proceed
This is
directly
the safety
to
area.
areas. Caution.
Eventually, the water levels slowly begin rising, and the nightmare meltdown is avoided.
It's coming up.
Returning to the television station, the news director Don Jakovic, played by Peter Donat, refuses to air the footage, citing federal law and fearing prosecution from the power plant company. This bureaucratic resistance infuriates Richard, while Kimberly reluctantly goes along with the station for the sake of her job.
So you're gonna sit here, huh?
This is none of her business. She doesn't make policy. She is a performer. But she is a professional, aren't you, Kimberly? She understands the problems connected with something this sensitive. We are not going to open ourselves up to a massive lawsuit.
Just being pressured.
We are not being pressured.
Yes, you are. You're being pressured.
You're being hysterical, Richard.
And you're being a chicken shit asshole.
Oh, Richard.
Angry, Richard sneaks into the station vault and steals the footage of the accident at the plant. Goodell and Spindler discuss the investigation, with Spindler fearful that someone is being set up to be a scapegoat.
What the hell's the matter?
Well, they had me in there 7 hours, Jack. That's twice as long as anybody else. Sure, you and these hotshot Navy guys, you got credentials. I'm a 25-year company man. I didn't know nothing about nuclear till they built this plant. Now, you tell me, where do you think the axe of human error is going to fall?
Well, what makes you think they're looking for a scapegoat?
Kimberly runs into Goodell at a rural bar in the area, and he tries to convince her that the situation she witnessed was not that serious.
In anything that man ever does, there's some element of risk, right? Well, that's why we have what we call defense in depth. Now, that means backup systems, two backup systems, two backup systems. You were there, and you saw what happened. There was no leakage of radiation. You know why? The system works. Even with a faulty relay, even with a stuck valve, that system works. There's no accident.
He also tries to get into her panties, to no avail.
Can I get you another drink?
Oh, no thanks. I have to get up in the morning. I'm covering the migration of the gray whale at my live at noon spot tomorrow from Point Magoo.
Jesus, you're halfway there, aren't you? Why don't you just spend the night either somewhere around here, and in the morning you just slide over the mountains?
No, I got a stack of things like this I gotta read, and
Then you gotta find your friend.
And I have to find my friend.
In the meantime, Richard takes the footage of the event to two nuclear scientists who tell the news workers that they were nearly killed by an event known as the China Syndrome.
I may be wrong, but I would say you're probably lucky to be alive. For that matter, I think we might say the same for the rest of Southern California. I don't know. They might have come close to exposing the core.
If that's true, then we came very close to the China Syndrome.
The what?
If the core is exposed, for whatever reason, the fuel heats beyond core heat tolerance in a matter of minutes. Nothing can stop it. And it melts right down through the bottom of the plant, theoretically to China. But of course, as soon as it hits groundwater, it blasts into the atmosphere and sends out clouds of radioactivity. The number of people killed would depend on which way the wind is blowing.
After Goodell finds welding that was not properly x-rayed to show that the integrity was weakened, he begins to realize that the plant is just one accident away from a complete disaster.
But if they ever put too much pressure on that pump, and they rupture those pipes.
It's the China Syndrome.
That's possible.
The first script for this movie was written in the mid-1970s. The movie's title is based on the theoretical but implausible notion that if a nuclear meltdown were to occur in the United States, the nuclear core would melt all the way through the Earth's core and emerge on the other side of the world, to China. However, China is simply a metaphor. Columbia Pictures studio executives originally wanted to change the movie's title. They referred to research that showed the public tended to think of the word syndrome as something medical. The studio executives suggested alternative titles such as Power and Eyewitness. However, actress Jane Fonda, with a lot of clout, made the studio accept the China Syndrome title. Jack Nicholson turned down the role of Jack Goodell as he was busy filming The Shining. Richard Dreyfuss was originally cast as the cameraman, but pulled out shortly before filming was to start, and Michael Douglas, who was also producing the film, was placed in the role instead. Actress Jane Fonda dyed her hair red for the movie. This was because she had noticed that most of the on-camera female newscasters had sported dyed hair. To prepare for his role as a TV cameraman, Michael Douglas went on news rounds with various television camera operators. One of them was Bob Brown, who later died in the Jonestown Massacre on November 18, 1978, a few months before this film was released. Michael Douglas said that 3 days before production started, the head of Columbia Pictures sent him a comb and a pair of scissors, implying he should shave his beard and cut his hair. Douglas declined. Jane Fonda broke her ankle on the set of this movie and could no longer take ballet classes as she had done for years. She took up aerobics instead, which led to her famous home exercise video franchise during the 1980s. When Kimberly walks around her house carrying a turtle, a photo of Marilyn Monroe can be seen in the back. It appears to be from the 1959 film Some Like It Hot, which starred Jack Lemmon. When the movie was first released on March 16, 1979, nuclear power executives lambasted the film as being sheer fiction and a character assassination of an entire industry. Then 12 days later, on March 28, 1979, the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident occurred near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The 3 Mile Island accident, which resulted in the release of radioactive steam, occurred just 3 weeks after the release of this movie, and many people associate the movie with 3 Mile Island. The China Syndrome would end up becoming a larger hit due in part to the 3 Mile Island accident. It grossed $51.7 million, becoming a box office hit. President Jimmy Carter screened the film on June 20th, 1979. This movie is the type of film that I call a slow burn. It's entertaining, but it is certainly not a super fast-paced or action-packed movie. The acting is good, Jack Lemmon is magnificent as always, Jane Fonda looks great, and Michael Douglas never fails and always delivers a great film performance. If you are in the mood for a mellow but tense dramatic thriller, I recommend The China Syndrome.